Welcome to the podcast that explores mysterious disappearances, bizarre worldly occurrences, strange phenomenon, and basically everything that's weird. Welcome to the podcast, everything that's weird. We're your hosts, Anthony and Brandon. And for the second episode, our researcher, Mario.
What's
and
up?
Tonight, we are going down under for the Tasmanian Tiger.
More Australians' weird-ass animals. Fucking. Why do all your fucking animals look like they're like four different animals mixed together?
It's the truth. It's the truth. So I got obsessed with this animal when I was a little kid. This is by far, if I had to pick a favorite animal, I would pick this one. If in an ideal world there was a World Football League, I would have and own the Tasmanian Tigers, and they would be they would be in the Pacific Division. It's cool. It's the very coolest animal ever. So just a real quick, before I get into like the story, real quick, if anybody doesn't know, you should look it up. It's very cool looking. They sort of look like a dingo, a dog, a wolf, and a fox and a tiger had a baby. So it's a
bit of kangaroo in there too.
Right, a bit of kangaroo. Sorry, it's a dog, wolf, tiger with a pouch. So it is a marsupial, and it looks sort of like a dingo. Like its head is shaped like a dingo. It walks sort of like a fox or a wolf. And then on the mid back to its tail, it has tiger stripes, and then it has like a stiff tail.
Yeah, its tail's kind of like a kangaroo.
Sort
and
of,
it has a pouch, but its pouch is facing backwards, so it's more like a big butthole. It's more like a prison wallet. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I almost spit out my water.
Fun fact.
But they do call their babies joeys, just like a kangaroo. And it is thought to be born of the island of Tasmania. Although it is, and we'll talk about this in the second segment, in other parts of the world. So, here's the story. I am 10 years old. So, when I was 10, that was 1986. Falco's Rock Me Amadeus was probably number one on the chart. Okay. All right. But my mom told me the story. So the story goes, and I've tried to find this online as like an urban legend or whatever. But, 1986, there's no internet. So she had heard it, I don't know, probably 10th hand. Like, from the original people, somebody told them, and blah, blah, blah. And so on and so on and so on. And as it goes, it ends up, my mom tells me the story. She says that this couple is on their honeymoon. And let me just clarify this real quick. Somebody on Joe Rogan, and I don't know who it was, because I tried to find it, but had a similar story to this. He was one of the guests, and he had a similar story to what I'm about to say. But this couple, they're on their honeymoon, and they're
Forrest Galante.
taking,
Was it Forrest Galante? The
Yep.
wildlife guy?
Maybe. So, where did... Yes. That's him. Okay, yeah. Okay, so he's telling the story, and it's
Do
very...
you know he was on Naked and Afraid?
I did not know that.
That's like where he got like his first TV times, I think. He was on Naked and Afraid.
I actually love that guy. He's actually super smart. He knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Not related to our buddy.
No.
So, the story is this. This couple, they go on their honeymoon, and while they're on their honeymoon, they're taking a walk on the beach, and they find this, like, puppy. And this thing is beat to shit, right? So it's all mangy, it's tiny, and it's not newborn, but it is, by all intents and purposes, like a 2-hand sized puppy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they take it back, and for a week, they kind of get it back to its, regular health. They sort of nurse it back to it's like a healthy. So this thing was kind of beat up, and now it's kind of like a healthy, thriving puppy.
Right.
So it's time for them to go home, and they
Except for that big gaping second butthole, but yeah, go on.
Maybe they respected his privacy. So they take it home, and for like 3 months, they have 2 cats. For 3 months, this thing is like thriving, and it's like getting bigger and bigger, and they think it's like a dingo, right? So they're like, okay, well, we must have found like a dingo pup or whatever. Well, then one day they come home, and it killed both their cats. And he says to his wife, he's like, yeah, man, this thing it's rabid or something's wrong with it. We need to put it down. So they take it to a local vet. So the vet kind of does an examination on it. He's like, it's not rabid. And they're like, well, we can't have something in our house that kills our house pets. So he's like, what do you want me to do? So they put it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking over like a game of golf he golfs, I guess, like in his community, the vets they have a golf league. And he's like, I don't know if there's a golf league. I'm just saying they're golfing.
Right. Yeah.
He's telling this other vet about this, an older guy. And the guy says, you put it down? He's like, well, yeah, it was their dog. They wanted to put it to sleep.
Right.
And he's like, well, what kind of dog was it? And he's like, I think it was probably like a dingo mix. He said it was weird. It had like stripes on its back. And they're like, and the vet's like, what else is it? He's like, I don't know. Honestly, I didn't really like examine it. And it killed their pets. It had blood all over its mouth. So we just put it down. And he's like, do you still have the body? And he's like, yeah. So like the next day, the older vet goes to this guy's office. They go in the office. He pulls the thing out. And he's like, that's a Tasmanian tiger, a thylacine. They also call it a Tasmanian wolf. And it's supposed to be extinct. Dun, dun, dun. So that's the story. And ever since, I got like obsessed with it because I was little. And of course, we didn't have an internet, but we did have the Encyclopedia Britannica. And
still got some.
So I think my mom still has some.
I got some on the shelf, but I'm missing some letters.
Are you missing tea?
I'm missing a few of them.
So I immediately looked up Tasmanian tiger thylacine, found it, and it's if you don't know what an encyclopedia is, it's basically Google. If Google was put into a set of 28 books and you had one paragraph for everything you want to search.
Yeah.
Some subjects get a little bit more.
Yeah.
But mostly it's like a Cliff Note version, 1 or 2 paragraphs for every subject. And this was no different. The Tasmanian tiger had I think 3 paragraphs. What it was, what its characteristics were, and what had happened to it. And what it had said was that it had actually gone extinct in 1936. So
yeah, because that's the one that was in the zoo, right?
Right. So that's the story. Couple goes on their honeymoon. They find a shipwrecked dog. Dog is beat to shit, all mangy. They take it, they care for it for a week. It's healthy. They take it back to their place. It's good for a couple months. Gets healthy. Kills their cats. They take it to the vet. They put it down. And then an older vet comes in and says, "You idiot. That's a Tasmanian tiger. And they're extinct." So
there's no reward for the dead ones.
No, well, not now, but there was.
Yeah, there was a big bounty on them one there.
But let's get into some facts. Okay, so first of all,
no, I'm not gonna lie. I had to go in. I got an Encyclopedia Americana.
Okay. Is there? Do you have the T?
I do have the one that should have thylacine in it. And
you can also check Tasmanian tiger.
I'm checking because these are old as shit.
It'll be in there.
And well, they might have still been alive. That's how old these are. Oh shit! No, they're from like the 60s. But yeah, I'm gonna thread through here and see if I can find this.
So the first thing is, it is a marsupial.
Yes.
And it is native to the island of Tasmania.
It used to exist.
How many people live in Tasmania? So how many people live in Australia, first of all? Because they are also found in Australia mainland. Mario, you got that?
25 million in Australia.
Okay. How many on... So Tasmania is like the Hawaii of Australia. So
500,000. 540,000.
540,000. Okay. So of the... In Tasmania... Where do people live? Like, I know it's very... So, it's Hobart. I know Hobart because that's where the last one was, right? The Hobart Zoo. So,
Yeah.
Hobart is their capital. But their map, I know one part of the island, and I don't know which part, is like kind of untouched, right?
Yeah, they got a lot. There's actually a lot of.
They have like a preserve.
A lot of Tasmania is wild and jungle.
So it's like, is it like half of the
Southwest National Park? Pretty much the whole Southwest.
Okay, because I know it's a big giant section of the island is nothing but like nature preserve. So, okay. This thing has a pouch. So what we're talking about,
it's about
26
this. They say it's about a little bit smaller than a pit bull.
Okay. And the thing looks violent. Although, from everything that I read, because there's not a lot of history on it, because it was just an animal, and then it kind of got killed off really rapidly. And I'll get to that in a minute.
Well, it lived in Australia, and New Guinea.
So yeah, I was gonna get to that too.
But those all, like the mainland Australia, it's supposed to have died off, and those in New Guinea, like 3,200 years ago.
Okay.
Like nearly 4,000 years ago, it died off in the mainland Australia, and that was, we'll go. Yeah, go ahead.
So just looking at a map, Tasmania is like 26,000 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
So the section that's kind of it's sectioned off as preserve is about a quarter of the island. So, about 6,000 square miles.
Yeah,
is like
some of it's really rough
preserve.
terrain.
Right, and there is a movie which is really good. I think he either won an Oscar or it was up for Best Picture, one of the two. And it's called The Hunter with William Dafoe. And it's really good. He's hired by like these Chinese businessmen to go hunt this thing down for fertility purposes. It's fucking the Chinese guys, man, and their boner pills.
They love
boner pills.
Even tiger penis, and
right?
They eat a lot of different animals' penises. It's fucking weird.
You would think that would help.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to find out.
Oh shit! All right. So anyway, this thing, it is a marsupial. It is very close to, like you said, a pit bull, but it has more of an elongated jaw.
Yeah.
And it's a scavenger, but it's also a hunter.
And it's nocturnal.
It hops sometimes like a kangaroo. So if you see that sounds ridiculous when you talk about like a dog, but if you see like videos of it in the zoo,
mm-hmm.
you would kind of understand what that means. Like it does go around like a dog or a wolf or a fox, but it also has this other gait that it does, like a
it's in its
hop,
locomotion.
Like a short hop.
Mm-hmm. Well, it keeps both back legs together, I think, a lot. So
a lot of people thought it was nocturnal because they didn't see a lot of them during the day. But it doesn't have like a strong bite or anything like that. It's kind of like it picks its stuff, just like the basis of its jaw. If you ever see a pit bull, right, get that fucking jaw.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't have that. This thing has this like.
No, they say it's real weak. That's why it ate a lot of birds, because it was easier to crunch the bird bones.
Right.
So it was for that reason, it was killing chickens.
Right. So
it could open its jaw like 80 degrees.
Yeah, and they showed one in the zoo on like film. It yawns.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's the thing that I saw that when I was young that I remember was seeing it open its mouth that wide. But it didn't have any downward bite force to it, so it's kind of odd that it was able to open its mouth that wide and not be able to apply any pressure. You think about other animals that can open their mouth real wide and they usually have a big bite force, like crocodile or alligators. They can open their mouths up real wide, but they can shut them with a lot of force. They can't open them with a lot of force, but they can shut them with a lot of force. So.
Right. So they say you can hold
a crocodile's
fingers
mouth. Yeah, you can keep their
fingers,
mouth
right.
shut.
But I've seen them whip people around in Thailand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It reminds me of that Joe Dirt with Rocky. And he spits him out on the bank.
Southwest Asia, they got to deal with some stuff that just eats them all the time, It's like they got tigers in India and crocodiles and shit. It's like
Well, I would say like here, you get in a wreck, you go off the road. You're like, oh, I survived. And then, like, a crocodile, a panther,
right?
Yeah. Copperhead bites you.
Yeah,
So anyway, they were thriving. They were good, but I never did get a population on how many they thought were in existence in like the 1900s. I looked for that.
They didn't have a lot of numbers on them. They actually, it was like one of those things that when that one in the zoo died, right, in 1936.
Yeah.
Which, do you know how it died?
Exposure, right?
Yeah, they fucking left it out in the cold.
Fucking dummies.
Fucking
dummies, right?
Yeah. But I like, even at that, it's like, oh, was that thing meant to go bye-bye? Like,
right?
One winter snap, and it was cold snap, and it was out. But either way, they left it out, and it died from exposure to the cold because it had this like unusually cold night, and they left it out. And so their natural instinct was, we need to get another one for the zoo. So they sent people out looking for a thylacine to catch and capture and bring back to the zoo to replace the one they froze in the cold, and nobody could find one. And it was like then that everybody started putting it together, like, hey guys, I don't think we got it anymore. I think they're gone.
So, okay, what I heard was it was endangered. It was even though now they say it was extinct in 1936. Mm-hmm. At the time, they said it was endangered. And it wasn't until 1986, because I think when something, and this is something we should check, when something is endangered, if you haven't had a sighting for 50 years or a quality picture, at the end of 50 years, they consider it extinct. There's actually like a formula.
I don't know.
So,
I'm working on it.
Got it. All right. So, so why did it go extinct? Okay. The major problem was colonialism. So when the British started to settle New Zealand, Australia, Tasmania, there was this land rush. At first, it was like a penal colony. But then there was like this opportunity, and a lot of people went to Australia. So I actually worked with a bunch of Aussies. They're the best. Aussies, they're the super coolest. They big stress on family. They love to have a good time. Mm-hmm. They absolutely love to have a good time. They hate New Zealanders like we hate Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, you know what I mean? It's a healthy hate, and they tell jokes about them. And but they're all sort of, from the same lineage.
Yeah.
And so they were primarily sheep herders and farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of mistaken that the Thylacine or Tasmanian tiger was killing all the sheep.
Yeah, they assumed it was because of its look and nature, and they'd catch them killing chickens and stuff here and there. So they just started blaming them for the sheep deaths, and they turned out to be like, well, most cases, it was like exposure, feral dogs, stuff like that. Because Tasmania doesn't have dingoes.
I didn't know that.
So that was the big problem on the mainland of Australia. It's more than people. It was the dingoes. When dingoes got introduced, they outcompeted them. The dingoes were hardier. They were better hunters, better killers. It was the same fate as the Tasmanian devils. That's why there's only Tasmanian. They're only on Tasmania now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because the Tasmanian devil kind of got outcompeted by dingoes as well. So
Tasmanian devils are also nocturnal?
Yes.
Okay.
And marsupials.
And
I believe their
Do they
pouch
have-
is backwards too. Yeah. Double butthole.
I hope we get some emails.
But yeah, that's dingoes played a big role too. People mostly, like you said, we were the ones that were like, "Phew, is it the last one? Not sure." Phew,
Yeah.
there was like, I want to say that they had a picture of a farmer who shot the last wild one, and he's like posing with it.
I'm actually holding him. I'm actually not holding him. I'm actually looking at it.
He's all happy, like he's got like one tooth. He's all,
Yeah.
I got him.
His name is Alb Quarrel.
Yeah, he looks
Alb.
like an alb coral.
And he is holding this specimen of a dog. And I honestly, like, I get why you would kill a wolf. I get, even deer are beautiful, but there's so many of them that eat your crops. Like, I had a garden, and one day, I came out. I had a big garden. One day I came out. There's like 8 deer out there just munching.
Yeah, just having their way with it.
And same with the rabbits. I get it. But these things are so cool. I don't know why you wouldn't. I don't know. Just the way they look.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not try to keep one or domesticate one or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they couldn't. Maybe that's part of the deal. I don't know. There's not a whole lot.
It's stigma. It's just like anything else. It's like wolves. They're, and wolves were actually killing sheep, but they still get a real bad rap, So
Right.
and
this thing, so they actually put a bounty on, like the actual government
Mm-hmm.
put a bounty on of 1 pound per thylacine, which at the time in their economy,
you got to kill some thylacines though.
well, at the time it was equal to like a month's wage in Tasmania for goods and what was being traded. So
There's
even
gonna
on
be
the
some
low
murder.
end, it's gonna be even on the low end. Somebody makes $600 a week. That's $2,400.
That's what I'm saying. If they were just offering you like 10 cents, everybody would be like, "Fuck that! I ain't wasting the ammo."
But even if you work minimum wage, you're talking $600 a week.
Yeah,
right?
that's
$2,400.
That's gonna get some shit killed.
People are gonna shoot for $2,400.
Right.
And that's what they did. And it wasn't like the great bison extinction, even though they didn't get extinct, but when the bison, they had there's a picture of mounds
Yeah.
of skulls,
Yeah.
and it's 50 or 60 feet high.
Yeah, it's the tower. Yeah.
And this isn't that. They thought
same thing with
more,
wolves. They did that to wolves all over the world too. Big piles of wolves. From kill them off. Wolves used to exist in a lot of different places in the world, and they don't now.
They're making a comeback though.
It's livestock. It's all about agriculture. When we discovered agriculture, we had to protect the agriculture.
So in this particular case, they had the government of New Zealand or the government of Australia had paid out about 2,000 bounties.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, when you think of that, and you do the genetics in science class, right?
Yeah.
You thin the herd big time.
Yeah, it's a pretty shallow gene pool. Right.
And the ones that are there are wearing propeller hats. Like they're not. You're not getting the best thylacine.
Yeah. Copy of a copy.
It's a cut, right. So now what they're left with is that people are like, well, shit, man, that was a cool animal. Like, we probably should have let it come in for the night. But it's the 30s.
They're like, no big deal. We'll just get another one. Bob, go out and get us another one. All right.
So it's believed that in the 80s or 90s, it was extinct. Like, actually extinct. And
yeah, because so wasn't that like a research done where somebody came up with a formula where they because there's sightings still to this day, and
right. They actually have a whole YouTube page dedicated nothing but right.
So there's a couple things. You got a dog-looking creature. So then and then there's feral dogs. So there's a problem with sightings because of stuff like that. But what they did in this to come up with that number was they went through all the different sightings and they like ranked them. Who saw it, how many people observed it with them, how long was the interaction, and did the person have like a scientific background? Was there any photos taken? Were they moving, or did they stop for a length of time? And they gave like all these things ratings. So they went through all the sightings and weeded through them to find probabilities, and it draws like a timeline.
Right.
And that's where they came up with the number of the 80s or 90s or possibly into the 2000s.
Like, because it couldn't, like, realistically, it couldn't have survived that long.
Yeah, and then there's other experts that say no, it's just not. It wasn't genetically. It wasn't able to overcome all the obstacles. Not man and dingoes and fucking all that other shit. So,
all right. So real quick, let's get back to this. Mario, you got the extinction. What did they say?
Yeah, I found a lot of different definitions of what extinction is. I did find the 50-year thing that you said. Like in the 80s, they were using that as a method. If anything hasn't been observed in 50 years, they can determine it's been extinct. But there's been animals that have been determined to be extinct that have been found centuries later. So
right now there's
still hope.
Right now,
like coelacanth.
What's that?
That's that fish. Coelacanth was a fish that they believed had been extinct for like 100,000 years, and turns out they like in the fucking like I don't remember where it was, maybe South America. They were catching them and eating them. They're like, yeah, we get them every now and then. Pretty tasty.
Sounds about right.
It's that like it's that fish that kind of looks like it's armor plated.
Oh yeah, I know that fish.
Yeah,
they're like, if you go down to Joe's place, he has that fish sandwich. Every once in a while, you got to get it before it's gone.
Yeah. Get rid of it, limited time only.
So Mario, you're saying there's not right now the way they determine it is a group of experts?
Yeah, I read that too. I mean, everything I pulled up, it felt like something different. But yeah, it's usually a group of experts who are knowledgeable about the subject, or scientists, or.
Yeah.
So the guy Galante that was on Joe Rogan, his story.
Actually, sorry. Look, here it is. The coelacanth is an extremely rare species of fish, which was once thought to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs millions of years ago.
Okay.
And it's been found alive in the Indian Ocean.
Huh. Okay.
What's crazy is their lifespan could exceed 100 years. So pretty cool. But yeah, it happens. We think something's on, and then.
So that Forrest Galante,
Mm-hmm.
he had said that. So they were not in Tasmania or New Guinea.
No, there was a boat bound for the Bronx Zoo, and it was
Tasmanian Tiger on it.
It had several animals on it, including, and according to Forrest Galante, he said that he did look into it, that the boat did include a breeding pair. I believe it was a breeding pair or maybe two breeding pairs of thylacines.
And when was that?
I think that was in the 80s.
Okay, yeah, because he was
maybe
saying,
it was earlier than that. Maybe it was the 50s or 60s. But either way, what his story is that the ship crashed off the coast.
Okay, so this
and so they're saying that they possibly survived, and this is where you get the stories of the chupacabra.
Okay.
They're saying that the chupacabras may actually be, some of the chupacabra sightings may actually be survived.
So I want to say that when my mom told me the story, and I don't, dude, I was 10. So like, I want to say that she said they were vacationing in South America.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with Australia, but like, and there was whatever. I'm just from what I remember, and then he said this, and the only reason I suggested doing this episode was because of this, and we're gonna get into what we think. There's a reason I wanted to do this episode. That's because this podcast is called Everything That's Weird, and there's a reason why I wanted to do this episode at the end. But what he had said was that they were on an island off the coast of South America, off the west coast of South America, and these people had a similar run-in in the 80s with a Tasmanian tiger.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, as a little kid, that blew my mind. It still does. Like, I get obsessed with topics. I was obsessed with North Korea. I'm obsessed with Antarctica, and I'm obsessed with the Tasmanian tiger. Those are three things I get, like, I can't get enough information about. But there's just... Okay, so I'll go first. Here's what it is to me. I think, unfortunately, it's extinct. And nobody wants it to be alive more than me. Like, I love this thing. It's my favorite animal. But I got like a renewed interest when I saw that movie, The Hunter. Because I didn't know what it was. I threw it on. It's a lot like Castaway.
Mm-hmm.
He starts off his journey. He has this business meeting in Tokyo, and then all of a sudden he's like in this rural area, and he goes and he meets this girl, and she has a couple kids. She gives him like a meal, and she's like, she kind of knows what he's doing, and she's like, "You're going after it, aren't you?" And he's like, That's what they pay me to do. And he tracks it. And then the rest of the movie is him by himself. He fucking tracks it. He sees it. And he fucking kills it. And it sucks. It's such like a Hemingway ending. But like, I don't know if that's true so much as it's, you know, it probably wasn't a real prevalent animal to begin with. And like we talked about in the last section, there's other, not predators, but natural competition that put it out of play. And then when you add the human variable, you know, it definitely dented the population either to a point of extinction or a point to where it couldn't survive, which kind of makes sense that there were still pockets or pairs of these things out there. I haven't been able to find, like, because there's not a lot of information on like their reproductive cycle. So like, you know, a dog can have a litter of kids. I don't know how many pups like a Tasmanian tiger has. I don't know if there's any I don't know if there's any actual data.
I saw something when they were talking about it, and that they had small litters, but they still had litters. It was, you know, 3 to 5 joeys, and they usually stayed with the parent, and like they were known to kind of hunt in packs, but it was like family groups, and they would stay until they were useful in a hunt, but not much longer after that. And they would wander off on their own.
So, how many? Okay, marsupials. I know they have multiple babies. Like koalas have multiple babies, but not many. It's not like they have 15.
No, because they carry them in a pouch, so it can't be too many.
Right, in their butthole, as you said.
Yeah.
But it's not 101 Tasmanian devils, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like 1 or 2.
1 or 2. Right. Maybe 3. So
yeah, 3 to 4 is like a high number, I think.
So like, they could only guess the population, you know, 80 years, 90 years later, and they were saying the population probably was somewhere at like 3,000 to 4,000. So when they took out 2,000, it severely limited the gene pool. So when you limit the gene pool, you know, the mortality rate, it affects the mortality rate like crazy. So then, you know, maybe instead of like 90% of the pups surviving, you know, because you always have a runt, you always have, like, just when you have multiple babies, somebody is shorted, right? So, like, just by that, you know, the numbers had to dwindle pretty quick. Because now you only have, for each pair, there's only 1. And I remember Stephanie said to me, she said, we should have kids, and we should at least have 2, because you should have 1 to take care of each one of us. Like, if not, like, personally, like, you know, society-wise.
Right.
And Brandon, I know you did enough for, like, 2 families.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It's called my retirement plan. You have enough of them, somebody's got to go pro at something.
Yeah, right. So like I kind of get that. Like, and actually, right now in China, so in China they had for a long time they had like a policy where if you had a girl, you could give the girl up for adoption like risk free because everybody wanted like a boy. Because so China has a gigantic population. So
Yeah, from what I understand, that they
fucked themselves.
Yeah, they might have because they're looking at maybe a potential societal collapse because of the lack of
right. And
females.
Now they're trying to pay. It went from you could only have 2 kids, and everybody was trying to have boys, or at least a boy and a girl, right? To now, because boys were so revered, but their population, they still have tons of women, tons of men, right? But their population has like leveled off, and they're actually trying to pay women to have kids, and the women are saying no. So like they're like, yeah, I can't have any more kids, and which is crazy because they're saying in like
we need more factory workers, and you better start pumping them out.
Well, they're starting to get a middle class, and you know the middle class, they're like, you know, fuck the poor people, and also fuck the rich people.
Right.
You know, I want to be rich. And fuck the poor people.
And in the end, they're the only ones that get screwed. Yeah, I know.
Totally. They're the ones working. And
and getting taxed.
Right. So
those ones are ditching the taxes. These ones are receiving the taxes.
So there's like really a concerted effort right this second that China is asking women to have babies because the projections are they're going to be down in population 60%.
Yeah.
In the next 30 years, which is crazy.
I've heard some real doom and gloom numbers from some
so it's happening
different economists and stuff. Yeah.
Japan's having like a problem. So they're like Fukushima. So this is their culture. Fukushima, it happened, right? So there's stuff that still needs to be cleaned up in Fukushima. So the older generation, like the baby boomers, are actually going into Fukushima to clean up because they don't want their younger generation to be affected with radio, activity so that they develop cancers and shit like that. That's pretty balls, right? Yeah, because
they're the oldest people. They're the oldest living people on the planet.
They live a pretty good life. They eat a lot of fish. They drink sake. It's pretty chill, right?
I was trying to tell my wife. She was talking about eating different Asian foods, whether it was Japanese, eating sushi and stuff like that, and eating Chinese. And I kept telling her, she was like, "You eat too much salt, and you eat that." I said, "Honey, the longest lived people on this planet are Asians.
Yeah, and
all they eat is salt and noodles and fucking, you know what I mean?"
They also smoke I was
like, they eat MSG all the time.
They smoke like freight trains. They just one right after, like they smoke. I heard this a long time ago. Like 75% of American cigarettes are sold in Asia.
Yeah,
which is crazy, right? Like everyone's like, "Oh, you smoke, it's real bad here." Then it's bad here because, like, what's bad here is our sugar. They don't talk about that a lot, but sugar is the number one problem in the United States. It's because we had a fight with the people that made real sugar, and we wanted a certain price, and they're like, no. They gave us a different price than they gave the rest of the world, and we're like, fuck you. We'll make corn sugar. Well, like high fructose corn syrup. And that's like a complex sugar, and it's hard to break down. That's why we have so many problems, and that's why like our sodas are really bad for you, because those sugars are harder to break down. And if you ever taste a Mexican Coke next to an American Coke, Mexican Coke's, dude, it's fucking night and day. It's way better. Or like
I saw somebody posted on. I saw somebody posted on, and like, you know, touchy subject, but it was funny. They said obesity kills way more people than gun violence does, but I don't see anybody marching against that, which would literally be beneficial to the cause.
So I'm on Reddit a lot, and this girl, she orders stuff from takeout and then eats it and talks about it. And she's a big girl.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I got a BLT and it was supposed to have no mayonnaise, but it has mayonnaise. I'm so OCD. And somebody wrote in, no, you're OBCD.
Yeah.
She's like, thank you. I didn't know my therapist was here. So anyway, so when you get to a certain population, you have genetically, and like, I don't know if it's like evolution or Darwinism or whatever, you're susceptible to like the problems that come with not having a big gene pool. And I think that's what happened to these things. Like, they just got kind of wiped out, and I think probably through the 90s they died. I actually think the story that my mom told me has some sort of rooted truth. Whether or not it's like 100% factual, I don't. But there are a list of like animals that they're trying to bring back. They're trying to bring back a woolly mammoth. And so one way they do it is it's Jurassic Park. They cross-pollinate, not cross-pollinate. They
fill in the blanks with.
They splice with a like animal, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, so what they were talking about, the woolly mammoth, it'd be some kind of elephant, and then, you know, through a series of genetic, you know, the boxes in science class, where the 4 boxes.
Yeah.
You work your way to like a pure, like, woolly mammoth the way you would with like a Shih Tzu or a pug or, you know, an American bulldog. Same sort of breeding tactics till you find like the one thing. But like, I do know there's problems with cloning. Like, I don't know how old we were when Dolly the sheep was cloned. How old were we?
Yeah, we were in high school, weren't we?
I think we were, yeah. But like, the problem with cloning is that you have one set of genes, right?
Yeah.
So anything that, I don't know. Let me not speak.
It's the exact same DNA no matter what you do.
Right, Mario. What do we got on the problem?
So yeah, they have to, you have to do many renditions of it. So they say like 200 to 300 attempts to get one, and then a lot of times they aren't even healthy because you're using aged cells, and it's just harder to and then obviously you would need 2 to reproduce. So it's a costly. Cloning is very costly.
So with the Tasmanian tiger, they would have to have 300 variations of that.
Yeah,
basically,
to get one that's viable, and then you would have to get another one that's female. So, I mean, you're looking at 1,000 clones to get 2 viable, right?
So, from what I heard, they have it. I heard they have the capability to bring back thylacine with the genetic material that they have.
So I've heard that also.
Now here's a creature you should look up, is the numbat. From what I understand, the numbat is the closest relative to a Tasmanian tiger.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's like an anteater type of thing.
Yeah, like, yeah, I guess. It's another one of them fucking weird ass Australian animals. Kind of looks
Sounds
like a squirrel, fox, raccoon mix.
It sounds like something you call somebody in junior high when you're trying to rip on them.
Yeah,
You numbbat.
you know that.
But it's a marsupial. I see it. Yeah, it's cool. It's a marsupial. It's the same. It's got the same markings. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's got that same like stripes, only down its back quarter.
All right. So unfortunately, I'm gonna call it. I think the story probably has some validity. I don't think it's crazy urban legend because of when it was told to me. So when it was told to me, it was the 86. They say sometime in the late 90s is when experts say it was probably extinct. And, you know, the last one was in a zoo in 36.
Mm-hmm.
My mom told me the story in 86. You know, they say they're still out there. If they're not extinct, it's such a slight population that it's gonna be extinct, and I think it probably already is extinct. And I do think there's hope for it to come back, and they may try to reintroduce it. But we're talking probably like, you know, based on what Mario said, probably 20 years. But right now, unfortunately, and I love it, I think it's extinct, but I think the story's probably has some elements of truth to it.
All right.
What do you think?
I think that fucker could very well be out there.
Really? He hangs out with Bigfoot? Is it Bigfoot's dog?
I don't think so, but what the thing is that we know that it existed.
It did exist.
There's no denying that it did exist. It's not a large animal. It's a relatively smaller animal.
It's also nocturnal.
It's nocturnal means it's that's very hard to track anywhere. But here's the thing. They were originally in New Guinea, and if you're talking about animals that we thought were gone and found them, New Guinea's like the capital of the world.
Well,
for
quick. New Guinea has a whole tribe of people that have never seen white people.
Yeah. Right.
Like
if you go look at the island of if you go look and zoom in on that, there is like 2 roads on the western half or the eastern half of that island, and that's the only 2 roads on the whole entire island. Like the rest of that place is just thick jungle. There's tribes of people that live remotely out there. Remember when we did we were doing, I think it was on the Mount St. Helens Bigfoot episode. We were talking about the possibility of such a large ape going unnoticed. And when I brought up that orangutan that they found, guess where they found it?
Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. So, and there's been other animals like, top of my head, there was like a New Guinea singing dog that's really close to a dingo. They're really closely related. I think they thought they were the same animal for a while, but they thought that thing was gone, and they found those in New Guinea. They had there was like a bat species that was found in New Guinea that they thought was dead. Bigger animals too, like where was in Indonesia, which is kind of the same region. There was like a tarsier, which is kind of like a I don't know, but like a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
And we talked about that too, like the golden monkey.
another nocturnal primate is nocturnal, so that's why they couldn't find it. You know, that region is a hotbed for mysterious and unusual animals, and also animals that were previously thought to be extinct. That there's a lot of them in that region. So, I mean, and which is, if you're looking at Australia on the map, Papua New Guinea would be right above it on as an island. And
Hey,
then
Mario,
New Zealand's right below it.
Mario, real quick. North Carolina, South Carolina. When did they find big cats? So for years. So I moved here. And you know, I don't know a whole lot about this area. There's crazy wildlife here. We have boars. They have a ton of deer. They have crazy snakes. So when you go hunting, you have to wear snake boots because there's like 4 different poisonous snakes here. Of course, the alligators. But a lot of times people would be out hunting and it'd be like, so they go out, you hunt, right? So you go out early in the morning or at dusk, right?
I don't hunt.
Oh, you don't hunt? I thought you did.
Nah, I don't like the taste of deer, and cows are so much easier to catch.
So, like,
I do eat the game though. My brother hunts all the time, so like he gives me free meat and shit.
So, you don't like deer? The backstraps are incredible.
You know, there's a couple choice. I feel like you could tell me the worst part on a cow, and I'd be like, it's way better than the best part of the deer.
So, for years here, they're like, hey man, there's fucking mountain lions here. And they're like, yeah, we don't have mountain lions. They're like, all right, fine. They're fucking cougars. And they're like, yeah, we don't have cougars. And they're like, all right, fine. They're fucking panthers. They're like, there might be panthers. So like, fucking from Florida all the way up the coast of the wilderness, there's like big cats. Mario, you got a year on that?
I'm seeing the 50s. I don't know. What were you thinking it was?
Well, when the Carolina Panthers became a football team, the reason, no, I'm dead serious. The reason they considered Panthers was because they finally said it was like urban legend. And they're like, oh yeah, there's big cats here. Because everything that, so first of all, a panther, a cougar, a snow leopard, a leopard, they're all the same cat. Do you know that? Did you know that?
Wait, what did you just say?
A puma, a panther, a mountain lion, a snow leopard, and a leopard, they're all the same cat. Did you know that?
Snow leopard and leopard are not.
They are. They're the same exact family.
Snow leopard is an individual cat. There is not one like it.
There are snow leopards that have.
It's one of the rarest animals on the planet.
Yeah, there's also like a black one. Have you seen that one?
No, but I know snow leopards are very endangered.
It all depends on their markings, but they are the same animal. They're not a tiger. They're not a lion.
I agree with you on the puma and the
panther.
Puma and panther and mountain lion. Puma, panther, mountain lion. Those are all the same thing. Jaguar, leopard, but not snow leopard. Snow leopard is an individual animal.
I might be wrong about the snow leopard, but
I'm
all the other
wrong
ones, all the
with
other
snow leopard.
ones,
But yeah, I get
all
you.
the other ones are the same animal. So they were like an urban legend here, and everybody's like, "Dude, I fucking see them when we're hunting," and they're like, "They don't exist, you fucking hillbilly." And it wasn't until the 90s that they were like, no. And some guy fucking trapped one and caught it. and they're like, oh shit, there's fucking we have panthers here. And that's why when that team, they were like, they did a name search about what they should call them, and some kids like, we should call them the Carolina Panthers. And that's why they call them the Carolina Panthers, because they were recently discovered, and that is why they're the Carolina Panthers. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But so, like, when you think about it like that, yeah, you're right on, man. I mean, like, you know, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and then if that, and that's just talking about that island, which is one of their, like, thought to be like origin points or whatever, but that's just that one island above Australia. Australia is a massive island.
Right.
And if you've ever looked at, like, say, a population map of Australia, there's like 3 points where people live.
Right.
The entire interior of Australia is completely wide open. There's almost nobody that lives in the interior of Australia.
Absolutely.
So to think that they would be able to monitor all of the outback to see if that animal was still out there and thriving in small pockets in remote places in that country is kind of absurd. I mean, it's different when you're talking about like a cryptid that you're like, I don't even know if this thing actually ever existed. That's a different animal.
But this is like, there's video. There's like
this thing used to exist. We know it existed.
There's film.
We have plenty of. We got DNA. We can reproduce it if we wanted to. It was there, and then they were convinced that it had died off 3,000, whatever it was, 4,000 years ago off the main island of Australia, because they hadn't seen it, and they stopped reporting any sightings of it. But hell, it's not like people moved to the interior of Australia. They stayed where they stayed, which is on the coast. Everybody lives on the coast, So
3 million square miles.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm not giving up that thing can't be out there somewhere, especially when we know that there's been several animals that are recent discoveries all the way up into the 80s that are large animals in small locations. You're talking about a small animal in a gigantic location.
And, I forgot what I made my statement, that it's nocturnal. I'm going to stick with what I said, but like nocturnal makes it so like you have to have trail cams. You have to have some kind of way to track it at night.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you have to have evidence that it's even in that spot and that it frequents. You know what I mean?
All right.
So, and who knows? Genetics change, so do behavioral patterns. I mean, animals adapt. So it may change its pattern to something that we're not used to seeing. Maybe it stopped hunting because it couldn't compete with dingoes, and it's turned into an insectivore, which its closest relative is one. So if the smaller ones survived because they could live off smaller game that was easier to catch and wasn't competed with against other big predators like dingoes, they could find small niche pockets to succeed.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they look like they look. It's because that look, it works as a predator.
Right.
It's successful. So you have simultaneous evolution.
Sure.
Where you have a marsupial and a canine both developing the same type of, I mean, they do, I heard that they do, like zoology students, they present a skeleton of a wolf and a skeleton or a skull from a thylacine and tell them determine whether it's a thylacine or a wolf because it's so close.
So there's a guy that has a whole channel on YouTube that does nothing but track this thing.
Yeah.
And everybody gives these videos, and it's a lot like Bigfoot. They're blurry.
Yes.
And blah, blah, yeah. And he has the same thing. He looks for the way that their ankle, I don't know, what do you call it? Their heel or their ankle.
Yeah, there's something weird down there. How
you could tell the difference between a fox and a Tasmanian tiger and a wolf and a Tasmanian tiger, and you can tell the tail is different. And there's certain like characteristics you can, besides the stripes. You can tell all these different characteristics because you don't always get the stripes because of like the distance or whatever. So yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, the one thing that's not going to happen with them that would happen with like say another type of canine is they're not going to mix breed. So I don't think you're going to see them genetically change that much. They should look exactly like they look because they're not going to. It's not like they're not a dog. They're not going to breed with dogs. They're not going to crossbreed with dogs. You know what I mean?
Because of the extra butthole.
Yeah. They don't know how to work it.
So real quick, there's a meme. This girl's like, I can't even with my mom. She's going to the proctologist today. And this is the shirt she wore. And it had this shirt. It has these aliens. It's like, get in, loser. We're going to do butt stuff.
Yeah. I love that. This is the alien shirt.
Yeah.
That's what I said we should add for our shirts for our show.
I'm down.
Get in, loser. We're doing butt stuff. But then last but not least, it brings you to the last known place they existed, which is Tasmania, another island with lots of vast forest. Not a lot of people living there. They all live in general locations, not spread out throughout the island. So you're talking about a big area for this thing to still exist that people just don't go to.
6,000 to 8,000 square miles.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about a gigantic place that they used to roam in, and like I said, I'm not an expert on them, but you know, like I said, there's a chance that adaptation can happen where they are like, because there was on the mainland, there was this huge competition with the dingoes. Dingoes got introduced to Australia. They were a much more successful hunter than them. So they were not only taking their game from them, but they would chase them off and attack them. You know, they were like rivals. It was like lions and hyenas. But in this case, the Tasmanian tigers, they didn't have enough family group around them to overwhelm the more powerful dingo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
they
mean,
just kind of got their ass kicked, and then people came along and they were like, they're killing our sheep and they're shooting them, which just shows you again that the dingo is a little bit tougher, since he didn't get blamed, or if he did and got shot, he's still around. But
so just to show you like what we're talking about as far as like how big that area that, you know, that it's dedicated wilderness. That doesn't count like the fringe. It's like the size of New Jersey.
Yeah.
Not Rhode
just
Island.
in New Zealand.
Just in Tasmania.
Yeah, I mean not New Zealand, Tasmania.
Right.
I said New Zealand before too, didn't I?
It's okay.
Just in Tasmania. Tasmania alone has a lot of unknown areas,
It's
corners
like
and pockets that are really hard to get to.
The Canadian Rockies for the Bigfoot, like it's such a vast area. So
yeah, and then if you're talking about the uninhabited parts of Australia, mind blowing how big that is.
It's primarily desert.
There's a lot of desert,
Right. But not Tasmania. Tasmania's like, it's like forest.
Yeah.
But
still, like I said, there's a lot of desert in Australia, but there's a lot of animals that live out there and adapt just fine to the desert.
They also don't know anything
Lots of
about-
marsupials.
There's not a whole lot of stuff out there about this. They believe it was like a grass plain area where this thing like thrived, but that's not etched in stone.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing that says it can't survive in the desert. There's nothing that says it can't survive. You know, so like.
Yeah, that's my point, because it's a marsupial, and it's like we were talking about how it was similar to a kangaroo of a sort.
And they live out there.
Kangaroos live in the desert all the time. They adapt to it. They do that thing where they lick their arms. You ever seen that? They got a lot of blood vessels in their arms. They did a thermal cams on them, and they lick their arms, and it does the evaporates, like making them sweat more. It's like doing the same thing sweat does for you.
I do that sometimes.
They lick all down their arms, and then they can see on the thermal camera that part of their arms is like the green color, where it's real cool. You know what I mean? So it's like how they feed. So there's animals that live just confined in the desert, you know. And
I also saw a guy fight a kangaroo one time, and he has huge packs. Like the kangaroos have, I don't know what they bench, but
yeah,
those things are jacked.
Yeah, so,
right,
Mario shows us a map here, and the map shows if you put Australia over top of the United States, it would go like basically coast to coast and up into Canada, and looks like maybe even a little dip down into Mexico.
So that is a little bit. So that is something called map bias. Have you ever heard that?
Oh yeah,
I think we've talked about it.
Yeah.
So like Africa is so much bigger than like South America, but on the map they look about the same size.
Have you ever seen them put all the countries in Africa?
It's a lot, right?
It's a ton. The United States is in there. Most of European countries are in there. It's crazy how many countries they fit into Africa. India's in there. Like, it's crazy.
So
lots of countries fit into Africa.
So when you're talking about like it is, I think we have an answer. I think we know what we're talking about. It's either it's extinct and they're going to bring it back, or it's still there and they have pairs and they're breeding them, right?
Well, I think it's possible that the thylacine is alive in the wild in small pockets in remote parts of the world. I think that's possible. I don't think it's probable, but I think it's possible. I'm all on board to say that it's totally possible we could find living specimens. But I have to put it as one of those. It's up in the air still.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, because I just can't say that it's not.
And I
true.
love it. And I love it.
And I know that Forrest Galante story about the boat wreck. He even said himself that he doesn't believe the story. He told the story, and then he goes, "Yeah, I don't buy it. Though. I don't buy it." Blah blah blah. And he went through a couple just brief things why he didn't buy it. But if there was going to be a guy that was going to, to listen to on whether an animal that we thought was extinct was out there, it's that guy. He's actually found animals that were believed to be extinct. So
I'm gonna go
or believe that they might be possible, like that gray area you're talking about where they're like they haven't been observed for a long time and they believe that they're gone, and he's found those animals, and it was crazy expeditions to do it.
So I'm gonna go with my mom told me a story that she heard. Truthfully, I am really, because
you say my mom would lie to me.
No, but I honestly think that's something that would happen, especially then. And whether or not it happened the way that the story happened, right? Maybe they just saw it or whatever. I don't know. But
my grandma will tell you the story about how she caught a little lizard and turned out, or my grandma told me that my mom caught a little lizard and turned out to be turned into a like 6-foot croc that lived in their bathtub till she had to throw it out. It's like,
Well,
Jesus
hey,
Christ, man.
Where we're from, so we're from the Midwest, in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
And there was a kid that went to Italy in the 50s. He took 2 lizards home with him in his suitcase. He put them in his fucking suitcase. He was a little kid. He got back to Cincinnati, and the lizards went crazy in Cincinnati. If you run, like I was a runner, if you run...
Are you talking about the brown wall lizards in Hyde Park?
Yes. There's lizards in Cincinnati. There should not be lizards in Cincinnati. You'll see them when you're running dead on the side of the road or whatever. There should not be lizards there. But he brought them back from Italy. They're like a whole population that live in Cincinnati for whatever reason. They started a pizzeria or whatever. And like they just thrive there. So like I think where we're at is that it's maybe extinct, but probable that it exists. And that it will come back at some point.
I tried to catch those lizards and get them to repopulate out of my house, and it didn't work. I'm like the lizard whisperer. I can catch those things by the dozen.
Maristelle, my daughter's like that.
I everywhere, houses that was worked on and stuff like that. All through that
Maristelle,
area.
my daughter catches them all the time. She'll grab them with her hand. Like she's not wigged
Oh
out.
yeah, I catch them all the time.
She's like, oh look, there's a lizard, and she'll grab it, and I'm like, dude, leave him alone.
I spent like 5 minutes at the end of the day. I had like a cup full of them, and I came back here. I did that like once or twice a week, and I'd come back to my house and I'd dump them out by the wall, my stone wall, because they
died.
No, they hung around I saw them around for like a year or two, and then I just thought maybe the population would take off, but they never did. Which is totally bad. I shouldn't be doing shit like that, but that's what I did.
Probably he's alive. What do we think? I think
it's possible that it's alive. I don't know.
I'll give it a like 5% it's alive, but I understand if it was extinct. But
I'm probably like 25%. 25% that it still exists. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna say probable that it's alive, and the story is.
We're saying it's possible that it's alive.
Possible it's alive, and the story is that it's possible because what they said.
Yeah, it could be possible. Yeah.
80s to 90s, right?
Mm-hmm. And if there was an actual shipwreck with the mating pair of thylacines that survived, and they were in the Americas, it's completely possible that
makes sense.
It would exist there, especially if it was, like you said. There's trying to think if there's anything that outside of big cats, like a jaguar in South America, that would be its competition. And jaguars aren't really competition to anybody because they're one of the best hunters. Their success rate is ridiculous, so it wouldn't be like they'd need a lot of territory, and they'd be hunting bigger game than you would think a thylacine would,
Right. Like I said, I think
talking about one of the cats with the one of the strongest bite forces on the planet, compared to a tiny little dog that can barely break bird bones. They're not going to be fighting for the same shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was a scavenger anyway. So,
yeah.
Not a hunter. Although a lot of people...
I still see it. I think it was still a hunter. I think it was a pretty successful one because its body style. It was like probably the most. It's probably the most successful marsupial hunter ever. But that's because it mimicked a canine,
right?
Which was wildly successful. So, I don't know.
So
Possible, not probable.
And I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day they'll re-engineer it. It'll be back in the game, like the woolly mammoth and the saber-toothed tiger.
Now the woolly mammoth one, the saber tooth and the woolly mammoth.
They're working.
Those aren't like.
They said woolly mammoth 2025.
But that was like not our fault.
No, not at all. And that's what my wife said. She said, "I mean, should we?"
Right.
I said, well,
like
right.
Nature selected. It's like a line from Jurassic Park. Like no. This wasn't like deforestation or anything like that. Nature selected them to not be here anymore.
Right.
You know. So.
Yeah, so like, what's crazy is that LA's a big metropolis, right? And it's fucking Hollywood and all that bullshit. But fucking right dab in the middle of it is the La Brea tar pits. And there's saber-toothed tigers and fucking
all kinds of shit in there.
Woolly mammoths and giant sloths and all this shit that they're constantly like digging up. So I don't know, man. I mean, you know, if anything, you just have like a stable population. Why not learn about it? I mean, you don't have to reintroduce.
Or you can put the saber-tooth fucking death machine. You know what I mean?
Well, like, you can make pairs and put them in zoos. Like,
what if it was like all of a sudden it was like, dude, people are delicious. You know? We'd fucking turn into India. We'd have masks on the back of our heads and shit.
We'd put a bounty on them and fucking make them extinct.
Yeah.
All right. I think
they'd immediately kill all the buffalo.
Yeah. Right.
Like, damn it. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Right,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if we wiped it out, it's like that's where I'm torn on sea turtles. And this is probably like, what's that one opinion that most people won't like? He's saying, I think fucking sea turtles are the most helpless creature on the fucking planet.
Why do they live so long?
Oh, it's like so like
they live like 200 years.
They're so helpless though.
Why do you say that?
They're so, you flip them over, they're fucking dead.
Yeah, that's true.
But
they live for a long time.
I've seen the every time I see a video where somebody's like doing something for a sea turtle, most of the time it has nothing to do with people. Like I saw one where they pulled it out of the water because it could barely keep its head above water because it was covered in so many barnacles. Yeah. It's so slow moving that it literally got covered in barnacles to the point where it was sinking and couldn't swim anymore. And it's like they had to scrape the barnacles off of it. There's another video where one's on its back, just flapping away, dying in the sun. And they come over and they flip it over. And then that wasn't even good enough. They had to shove the motherfucker into the water because it couldn't make it there. And it's
maybe this one with his extra butthole.
Sometimes some animals, you just gotta let nature go, you know. Let's just let that one go, man. Yeah, you guys don't have to have no more fucking goddamn burying eggs. Like they can't even bury their own eggs properly and shit. Like, got people out there with coolers full of eggs so they can bury them, and then they have like guard watch where they watch over the little ones as they go to the ocean because literally everything eats them on the way to the ocean.
You're not allowed to have, like, our bars here can't be open past 10 because of the turtles.
Yeah. See, that's just the kind of shit I'm talking about.
Yeah. You have to have red flashlights on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because they're so fucking sensitive. Like,
but I never heard that about the Tasmanian Tiger.
Nobody ever said that motherfucker was helpless.
No. So I think we're right. It's probable, it exists. And if it doesn't exist, they're going to bring it back. So
I think if we're going to bring something back, we got to trade something off.
I agree.
There's a couple things we can get rid of. There. Yeah, we can get rid of. There's a few things we can get rid of.
Armadillo. All right. Well, so where do we end up? I think it's extinct, but it's possible that it comes back. You think it still exists, and it's possible that it comes back, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there it is. All right. Well, I'm Anthony,
I'm Brandon.
I'm Mario.
and this is Everything That's Weird.
For show notes and merchandise, go to www.everythingthat'sweird.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And be sure to like, subscribe, and review anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to contribute, please go to our Patreon page at Everything That's Weird. Check us out on Instagram at Everything That's Weird or Twitter at ETTW Pod. Or if you'd like to send us an old-fashioned email, go to everythingthat'sweird@gmail.com.